now for the local Yokels. Okay, who can tell me who we are looking at in this photo?
Sally.
No, someone must be able to guess this.
Sadie Oakley, isn't it?
Yes, very good. The actress was named Gail Davis. This was a publicity shot for the Annie Oakley Show, which was a TV series. Let's see. It ran from 1954 to 1957. And Annie always wore the same fringed cowgirl outfit that you see in the picture. Second slide. Just over 5 feet and 100 pounds, Davis was a charming heroine who wore pigtails and stopped criminals by shooting the gun out of their hands. She never shot the criminals, she just shot the guns. She was nice. She also rode horses and did all of her own stunts for the show. She was the first woman to star on a TV Western. Many young women later said they were influenced by watching Gail Davis play Annie Oakley, a female character in a traditionally male role. One of those young women lived right here in Surry, and her name was Diane Stevens. Diane desperately wanted to be like her idol, Annie Oakley. You can see her here in her cowgirl regalia. It's a family photo taken at Carrying Place Beach, I think, or perhaps Coggins Beach.
Is that Red Stevens in their white shirt?
Yeah.
Yes, that's her father, Red Stevens, yes. Later, as an adult, Diane Stevens became the first female to join the Surry Fire Department. She spoke here last year as part of our celebration of the 70th anniversary of the Surry Fire Department. But joining the firefighters was not her first involvement with the Surry Firehouse. Back when she was 8 or 10 and emulating Annie Oakley, her father, Red Stevens, was the secretary of the fire department, which had a telephone. Diane longed to talk to her idol, Annie Oakley, so she had the idea of calling her up and, asking her questions. But her family had no telephone. So she sneaked into the firehouse and tried to call Hollywood to speak to Annie Oakley. Somehow, she got connected to someone in Hollywood and was told that Annie Oakley was unavailable. Hugely disappointed, she crept back home. Shortly after that, the fire department got a phone bill. Nobody could figure out who had called the West Coast. Finally, Diane confessed. Her parents required her to earn money by doing chores so that she could pay back the fire department for the cost of the call. When she had earned enough, her father took her down to a fire meeting in front of all the men there, and she handed over the money and apologized for calling Annie Oakley in Hollywood. Diane Stevens Pinkard now lives on the West Coast. Anyone recognize this residence? Yes, Pete.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time down there, on the neck. Fred and Clifford's.
It's the old Coggins family homestead on Newbury Neck. The house lot is vacant now. This house is long gone. And nearby is you can know where it is because nearby there's a lane called Coggins Farm Lane. There's a little road sign, so that kind of tell you where it is if you're not familiar with it. The Cogginses lived for generations on Newbury Neck in Surrey. Several of them were sea captains. And one, William Coggins, owned a boatyard at the very end of Newbury Neck, and as well as a dry goods store in the same area. And if you go to the Bayview Cemetery down on Newbury Neck, you'll see a lot of Coggins gravestones. This is a Coggins too. This was the last inhabitant of the Coggins barn. Her name was Tilly. The fellow in the photograph is a cousin of the Cogginses named Gerald Coggins. The last inhabitant of the house was Fred Coggins, shown here, holding a weather vane. In 1952, which is the date on this photo, his brother Clifford died at age 61. Fred decided to donate the weather vane on the Coggins homestead to the newly opened Surry Grammar School, which in 1952 replaced the old Surry Village School. He wanted to give them the weather vane to put on a flagpole at the new school in honor of his brother, and he actually hoped that they would name the school the Clifford Coggins School. That part didn't happen. That school is on the same site where the current elementary school is. The building is gone, but it's the same site. This is a group photo of the Coggins brothers when they were young men. Clifford, I don't know if you can read the type. This is Clifford, and this is Fred. And other people from Newbury Neck are in the photo as well. Okay, here's the weather vane again. When the Surry School opened in 1952, they had a big ceremony, and one of the people invited to speak, in fact, the main speaker was Maine's U.S. Senator Owen Brewster. Now, before I go on, I just want to give you a little background about Owen Brewster. I had never heard of him when I did this research, but I was surprised to learn this. Ralph Owen Brewster, who was born in 1888 and died in 1961, was an American politician from Maine, a Republican who served as the 54th governor of Maine from 1925 to 1929. He was in the House of Representatives from 1935 to 1941, and he was in the U.S. Senate from 1941 to 1952. In the post-war Senate, meaning after World War II, Brewster became good friends with Joseph McCarthy, the senator from Wisconsin. His association with McCarthyism eroded Brewster's political support, as McCarthy's anti-communist excesses became increasingly unpopular in the country. His earlier association with the Ku Klux Klan had already cost him support in liberal Republican circles. One of McCarthy's major opponents was another Republican member of the Senate from Maine, Margaret Chase Smith. And she bravely faced him down in the U.S. Senate and started the process leading to his disgrace and fall from power. But that was just a little bit about Owen Brewster. Anyway, he spoke at the opening ceremony. And they installed the flagpole and put the weather vane on top of the flagpole in honor of Clifford Coggins. But soon after the flagpole was erected, Surry resident Harry Carter. Is Harry Carter anybody's forebear here? Is anyone related to Harry Carter? I'm not exactly sure who he is, but anyway. He wrote a scathing letter to Claude Bonsey, who was the president of the local school district. He strenuously objected to the weather vane. He cited the U.S. flag code, saying that it was wrong and it desecrated the flag to put anything above the flag on a pole, such as a weather vane with a family name on it. The matter was referred to the State Commissioner of Education, and after he consulted experts on the U.S. flag code, he concluded that, quote, Surry is acting with proper respect and propriety in displaying the flag as it is now doing. School District President Claude Bonsey then wrote the following letter to Mr. Carter. And I'm going to call on Jan Black Stanley, to come up and read you that letter.
The stationery says Town of Surry School District, Surry, Maine, Claude Bonsey, President, Frank L. Whitney, Clerk, R.T. Carlisle, Jr., Treasurer, George Torrey, and Floyd D. Black, my grandfather, also on that committee. I don't think John knew that when he asked me to read this, so I thought it was pretty cool. The letter is dated October 4th, 1952, and it's addressed to Mr. Harry C. Carter, Surry, Maine. Dear Sir, enclosed you will find a ruling from the Commissioner of Education with the approval of the Adjutant General's Office requiring the flag staff in question at the new elementary school. The letter is self-explanatory. The threat to the world today is not commies, but rather men like you, who have neither the education nor the intelligence. Remember, this is Claude Bonsey talking. To properly comprehend the facts. You were not able to read the federal flag code and intelligently understand its meaning. You cannot be blamed for this because the opportunity for education was not present when you were a boy. An all-out effort to educate our children is the first stop to assure ourselves that the future generation will be one of intelligence and wisdom, capable of reading and judging intelligently the difference between right and wrong, capable of supporting themselves and the country rather than submit to reversal of this procedure which is so prevalent in this day and age. Now that you have had this experience, I hope that you will join the ranks of us who have worked so hard for better education in our school in Surry. Let us look forward, not backward. Let us build up and not tear down, and so strive that when we lay down our implements on earth, we may receive the welcome praise, well done, good and faithful servant. Claude L. Bonsey.
Thank you, Jan. Still makes me sweat when I hear that letter. Here we have a picture of, from 1963, the Claude L. Bonsey School. The school was eventually named for Claude Bonsey when he passed away unexpectedly. You can see off to the left the flagpole, and I don't know if you can make it out, but the Coggins weather vane is still, in 1963, on top of the flagpole. And the only question about this is, where is it now? If there's anyone in the room who knows, tell me. But we'd like to kind of understand what happened to it. When the school, when this school was demolished and the new school built, there's no flagpole at the new elementary school, but no one seems to know what happened to the weather vane. It would be a wonderful artifact to display at the Surrey Historical Society, so I hope it turns up someday, but no one has any information. I guess not. Oh well, I tried. Next. This is a photo of Claude Bonsey with two of the students at the school. Also, this is 1963. The girl on the left is Doris Nagel, and the girl on the right, I think, has relatives in the room. It's Sylvia Carter. Do you recognize Sylvia? Audrey? You're her sister-in-law, right? Yep. It's not a very good photo. It's kind of not balanced, but anyway.
She's also a cousin of Jim.
Yes, good. One more. Okay, just a little more background on Claude Bonsey. This photo, it's hard to tell, but that's Claude Bonsey. This photo shows a bunch of people on Newbury Neck during the Great Depression working in the program called Civilian Conservation Corps. The Corps was a public work relief program that operated from 1933 to 1942. It was a major part of President Roosevelt's New Deal that provided unskilled manual labor jobs for conservation and development on federal and state and local lands. The CCC was designed to provide jobs for young men and to relieve families who had difficulty finding jobs during the Great Depression. Maximum enrollment at any one time was about 300,000 men. Through the course of 9 years, 3 million young men participated in the CCC, which provided them with shelter, clothing, food, together with a wage of $30 per month. Were there any questions about that? Yes, Edie.
I think you might be interested to know, I learned something tonight as far as Jan, your dad. Was it your dad that was on the school board?
My grandfather.
Your grandfather was on the school board. Recently, Jan sold her house here in Surrey, had that lovely barn in the back of the house. And before the sale was complete, she called me and she said, there are some debts from the old Surrey Village School. It stands to reason that in 1952, when it closed, your grandfather probably said, I've got room for them. Come and put them in my barn. And so she said there were about 30 of them. The good news is there were 13 of them that we have now that are in very good condition. And I think it's kind of interesting how this all comes around. That's right.
Thank you, Edie. I'm going to call now on Terry Higgins to come up and share a little story about connected to the Surrey School. Yes?
What were the men in the conservation corps doing?
Well, it was winter and it looked like they were shoveling snow. Is that correct? Off the highway?
My dad was one of the young men right in the middle, and then Claude Bonsey's my uncle, and my Uncle Earl was here as well. They were shoveling the snow. And if any of you know, down on the Newbury Neck Road in the middle of the winter, they used to put those snow fences right along that area of Newbury Neck, down where the Gibsons are now. That is approximately what they were doing, is clearing away the big drifts that were down there.
Terry.
Picture of the school, maybe? Okay. Hi, I'm Terry Higgins, and I'm John's sister. And it's hard being his sister because he always gives me more work to do. I attended the Surrey School, the Claude L. Bonsey School, from 1961 to 1970. Rodney and Arlene Saunders drove the bus, and I was best friends with their daughter Barbara, so I hung around their house a lot, and I got to, when she took kids home on the bus, I got to stay on the bus and do the whole loop, because I would have been the first one off the bus living in the house where my brother lives now. I would have been the first one, but she would always say, you can ride around and I'll drop you off at the end, so that was kind of fun. But they called driving the kids, they called it hauling the kids. They always said, we've got to haul the kids tonight. The bus was a Chevy or a Ford van that was converted. On the inside they had, they took out all the seats in the van, and then they had wooden seats around all the edges of the van, little wooden tables, and there was a tiny wood one right by the door where you would open the door this way. So we all fit in there, and the biggest boy would always be the one to sit by the door and swing the door open for each kid. His arm was going like this the whole time. John Stewart did it almost all the years that I was in school, and then when he graduated, John Barrowell was the one who opened the door, but it was always the biggest boy. Did you ever have to do that?
No.
Because I think you had to be named John to do it. There were 2 captain seats in the front and a big console, and sometimes I got to ride in the front with Arlene because either Barbara had something to do after school or I don't know what it was. But she always would have her pouch with her cigarette lighter and her cigarettes there, and sometimes she'd smoke. I mean, I'm just talking about how things have changed over the years. During hunting season, Arlene would wear her orange vest, and this is the shocking part, how things have changed. She would bring her shotgun in the van, and I don't know whether it was loaded, maybe it wasn't loaded, or it was loaded and had the safety on, but she would lean it up against the center console during hunting season. And Newbury Neck was a hotbed of deer back in the 60s. You know, you couldn't drive down the neck without seeing a deer, and oftentimes we would stop and she'd get out with her gun. And she never shot a deer when I was with her, but I know she did bag a few deer in her time. So that was just to show how, you know, times have changed, sentiments have changed. Can you imagine now if you brought a gun on a school bus? And today is kind of a special day for my brother and I. When I came in, I was flipping through this 2008 Paper Talks magazine, and the first page that came up is a picture of my father and mother. And the reason today is special for us is because my father was born on July 16th, today, 1918, 100 years ago. So I just thought that was kind of karma when I came in, and the page just flipped open to that, and beside him was a picture of my mother. That's
Walter, you wanted to come up and share something about smelting in Surrey.
I was on the end of the smelting deal, and you can see by my age that smelting had been going quite a long while. But when I was young, smelting was really the economy of Surrey from December through the end of March. If you were smelting, then that's what your income was. And our family, my father was a smelt fisherman, and we used to love to get up to the post office at night when the returns would come back, because these smelts that were caught were shipped to Boston and New York in 30-pound boxes, which Willard Kane had bought a lot of these boxes from some lumber person, and we put them together and shipped these smelts to Boston and New York. And you'd be up there at post office time, and everybody would be looking at their returns to see which market was the best, or which company was doing the best price-wise for you. And so it was a big thing in the town of Surry. It probably was maybe 50 people from the town that was smelting, but when we get going, there'd be about 100 tents. Down on the bay, and then one year down in Morgan's Bay it opened up. Dolph Kane was the great fisherman, and he had gone down there alone, and when he came back he had about 200 pounds of smelts for a tide. And soon that changed. He wasn't alone. By the end of the year, there was over 200 tents on Morgan's Bay. And everybody was taking from 50 to 200 pounds of smelts per tide. And you caught smelts almost exclusively on the flood tide, when the tide was coming in. And once it turned at high tide, smelting was all done. You didn't get any more of the bite after that. But for us, it was a great thing because it was our income for about 3 months. You know, the snow would be very deep, much deeper than it is now. It'd be, when it got to be about 3 feet of snow, the woods operations all pretty much shut down, and there was nothing else to do, and there's no income. So smelting was a great thing for our town. And this thing just went on, and when I got to be about in high school, it started petering out, and by the time at the end of high school, there was no more smelting, and now none come into the bay at all. Anybody has any questions? Beg pardon?
What year was that?
See, that would be about 1952. Any other questions?
How much you get for your smelts? How much a pound?
Oh, they'd run from about 25 cents to 50 cents in New York. Then you take the freight out. It wasn't a big check, but of course the economy was much different then too. So you could exist on it. Yeah.
You'll be able to tell them from away. How do you catch a smelt?
I didn't understand it.
How do you catch a smelt?
Oh, we had a smelt tent which was 4 by 5, and you'd get out there and you had what's called a jig that went across, had 5 lines on it, and you'd fish these lines and catch these smelts. You baited them with bloodworms and told them with herring or mackerel. Used to buy that, and you put a little bit of it in the water, and that would pull them to your tent. Or you hoped it would. But it was very interesting because Dolph and Willard Kane were probably the best fishermen in the town in my lifetime. And everybody used to follow them. They'd set their tents, and they'd be all around them the next day. So Dolph and Willard started going at night after Willard closed the store about 9 o'clock. They'd get down and cut a new hole and move along somewhere else. And Dolph had a tremendous ability to know where to go on that bay, so he'd hit them the next day. Where he was the day before, they'd get very few, and where they went, that's where the smelts would be.
Freeze down, I don't freeze down the bay like we used to, does it?
It doesn't freeze up like it used to.
No, it doesn't freeze up at all. Because when it was so cold that you'd start in late December, 1st of January, and you would start up the head of the bay and then work down what they call the middle ground, which is down the bay waves, down as far as Stewart's Point would be good fishing. And then suddenly the weather would turn so cold, it would freeze way down, sometimes then to Bartlett's Island and beyond. Be froze so you could go right off on top of it. So it's a different world. We're in a different world weather-wise, definitely. Yeah.
Tell them how they used to heat those tents with gasoline, stoves inside.
He's asking about the stoves. How did you heat the tent? How'd you heat the tent?
Oh, we heat the tent. We had a 5-gallon can, and we cut the oil can, 5-gallon oil can, and you cut the top halfway across and put wire in it for hinges, and then you lift it up, and we burn wood. Originally, that's the way it was. You burn with wood, and you'd have when you went down on the ice to go smelting, you had this bag of wood with you in a crocus bag, and that's how you heated your tent. But the last of it, the last many years, they developed a system with oil, where they would they had a gallon or 2-gallon can up above with a pipe that went down in to the top of the can, and they'd just turn this valve so it would just drip, and that would keep a little fire there all the time, and that worked real well.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you.